Hi, everyone. I'm here to talk about Trailhead. We're going to look behind the scenes a little bit to see what we do to bring Trailhead to you all. In particular, we're going to talk about how we keep Trailhead content updated, because that is what is most relevant to my role, which I'll explain in a second. I'm going to thank the sponsors again, because it's in my slide deck. Legitimately, this is my favorite event of the year. It's like TDX, Dreamforce, Mile High Dreaming, like a mile above these other ones. It's my favorite. I love coming to it every year. I've been coming since 2017 when it was in the basement and I had no idea what Salesforce was. I love it. I get to see my local community, so we wouldn't be able to do that without the sponsors, so let's, keep that going. My name is Kelly Hamilton. I am lead quality manager on the Trailhead team. What does that mean? It means that I run all of our quality processes and updates to our system that support quality. So that includes everything from defining the quality standards, enforcing those quality standards. I run our testing programs. I make sure that bugs get fixed when they happen, and then I make sure that our badges are maintained. So it kind of covers all of that sort of stuff. I sit on a Scrum team. So I represent the quality side of the business, and then I bring that work to our engineers, and I make sure that quality is built into the Trailhead Release App, which is our custom Salesforce app that we use, and I'll talk more about that in a little bit. But we make sure that we build as much of that into the process so that we can enforce it systematically, or at least make it as easy and as intuitive as possible for all of our writers, which there are many of. So what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about one of these updates that we made earlier this year. But to get into that, I want to explain and really hammer home why quality matters. Why do I have a job? We're also going to talk about the challenges of quality when it comes to Trailhead content. I'm going to give you a little glimpse of the ghost of maintenance past when it comes to Trailhead. And then, with that foundation set, I will then show you what we have done to make it so much better. Cool. Okay, so why? Why is quality so important? Why do we emphasize it? Why do I have a job? Really, I could boil it down to one word, and that word is trust. We have millions of learners around the world, and they trust Trailhead to help them make a difference at their organization, right? They trust us to, you're laughing, and we're going to get to that. I think I know what you're laughing about. They trust us to help them build their skills and sharpen their skills, right? They trust us to help them build their careers, right? And that's something that we don't take lightly. That's a big deal to us, right? So technology moves really quickly. The pace of innovation is crazy. It's increasing, so we need to keep up with that. Trailhead also makes learning fun, it's consistent, and it makes a big impact for learners, right? So high quality content is super, super important. And now let's get to what you were giggling about. Did you notice the typos? There's some typos on this slide, right? And I have circled them because I know that they are there as well. I put them there on purpose. It was an experiment that I wanted to run, and as I suspected, they did not go unnoticed. Shall we play a little game of Find the Typos? There are 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Nope, go back. Did you get all of them? You saw all of them. Immediately. I saw you two over here react immediately to that, right? Thank you, because you're proving my point, right? Quality is important. Even little things such as typos can make a difference, right? These are minor. You could still tell what I was trying to say, but it immediately became a distraction. It even distracted me. I was like, oh my God, they know about the typos, but they don't know that I did it on purpose yet. It's a distraction, right? At a minimum, it's a distraction. You probably missed a little bit of what I said when you were noticing those typos because they jumped out to you. I know from my work in the quality world that the people that notice typos really notice them. They stand out, they're blinking, flashing lights, and sometimes you can't get past that, right? But worst case scenario, maybe you started to question my qualifications as a quality manager, right? If this is the slide that I put together, I've thrown it together to talk to you about quality, you probably started to wonder if you could trust me to talk about quality, huh? Do you see what I did there? Do you see how full circle? Okay, quality is super important, right? That is why it's important. I do want to call out, that is not to say you won't see typos on Trailhead. There have been typos on Trailhead. There's probably typos right now. We're human. We do make mistakes. We appreciate your patience when we do make mistakes. But what my job is to build those things into our processes and our systems so that they happen less frequently, but also that we can get them fixed as quickly as possible, right? All right, I have one more slide I want to use to just like hammer this point home. So these are results of a survey that was done just earlier this year, not too long ago. So 86% of our learners report learning on Trailhead increases productivity, so that's super valuable. 76% report that Trailhead skills help them increase Salesforce ROI for their companies. You all know Salesforce is not cheap, it's a big investment, and so companies want to get a return on that investment, and Trailhead helps people do that. Awesome. And then 60% report that Trailhead helped them secure a raise or a promotion, and that is a huge deal. Like, that's the thing that I like to zoom in on. Like, that's what's important to me. It has helped me in the past. I'm a Trailhead success story myself, and I credit a lot of the learning that I've done and the confidence I've got from that learning to Trailhead. So that really resonates with me, and it's cool that I get to help support other people that are doing the same thing. All right, let's talk about the quality quagmire. I was looking for alliteration for that one, and I feel like ChatGPT really delivered. All right, quality is a big challenge, especially when it comes to Trailhead. So I have some numbers that I want to use to paint that picture for you. We have over 1,800 badges published at any given time. That includes some shiny new badges that were published in the last couple of months, and these were just recently written, and they were written with the most recent products and best practices, and they went through a lot of testing and QA, and then they were published for the world to see and earn and all that sort of stuff. But it also includes a lot of older badges too. So some of our badges actually go back to when Trailhead was first launched over 10 years ago. So I actually went back and looked, and we still have 9 or 10 badges from when Trailhead was first launched in August, September of 2014. So those badges are quite old, and can you imagine how irrelevant they would be if we left them untouched for all that time, if we've never updated them, right? We have, and I'll talk more about that, later, but 10 years is an eternity when it comes to technology. So it's really, really important for us to keep these updated, but with 1,800 badges, it's a lot of work. For those badges, these badges are owned by a little over 260 badge owners within Salesforce. We have a small but mighty team of writers that are on the Trailhead team, and that's all they do is they write Trailhead badges, and that's their full-time job. They're awesome at what they do. But the majority of our writers are actually outside of the Trailhead team. They're from marketing, they're from product, they're from different technology teams and enablement teams, but they're spread across our entire company. And for many of them, writing Trailhead is just a small part of what they do. So we need to make sure that all of these people meet our quality standards, both in building badges, but also maintaining them after the fact. Maintenance isn't as sexy as building a brand new badge. So we have to make sure that they're all on the same page. 1,100, a little over 1,100 of those badges are translated into different languages. We translate into 9 different languages, which is a big lift in and of itself, but every time we make an update to the English version of the badge, that same update needs to be made in the translated version. So that's a huge challenge when it comes to maintenance. Over 350 of those include hands-on challenges, and these are my favorite. These where you actually get to get into our products, touch our products, explore, experiment, break them, see how they work. Like that, I feel like is the way that I learn best, and I know that's the same for a lot of other people. But these badges are so much more complex to build and to produce, but also to maintain. There's a lot of additional challenges that go in there, especially when it comes to major releases, right? Like our company releases 3 times a year, and we need to make sure that our hands-on challenges reflect the most recent UI that you're going to be interacting with. Otherwise, it might break, or at the very least, it might not match what we're telling you you're going to see. All right. All of these badges represent 71,835 minutes of learning. Should we sing that to the tune of that Rent song? How does it go? 525, that one? You know what I'm talking about? Cool. That is almost 1,200 hours or 50 days of non-stop learning. I love that face, Jean. Keep making that face. It's a lot. And when I say non-stop, I mean like you're not stopping to do anything. You're not stopping to eat. You're not stopping to sleep. You're not stopping to work. Nothing. You're going to be doing Trailhead for 50 days straight if you were to go through every single one of our badges. And I put that there to just demonstrate this is a lot of content, right? We have a lot of stuff that we need to keep updated. And man, the tricky part about maintenance is that it is not a one and done situation. It is ongoing. You have to keep doing it over and over and over again, right? Because technology changes, best practices change, products are retired, etc. So it's ongoing, right? Hashtag job security, I think, for me. Okay, what's on this slide? Oh, I know what's on this slide. Cool. In short, it takes a village. It takes a lot of really smart, really hardworking people to bring Trailhead to you and to keep it relevant, right? It's a lot of work, and quality is a big aspect of that, right? I think this slide is a good moment for an aside about AI. Yes, we are using AI at Trailhead. We're using it to help us build and bring badges to you more quickly to meet the demand of Trailhead. We have a lot of people that want more on Trailhead, so we are using it. But maybe you'll notice with these pictures, I did like a little thing with the pictures here. You saw that I started with AI-generated images, right? And maybe you noticed that the AI did a good job of the small group photos, but then it started to struggle as the group got bigger, comically so in some situations. And then the last picture, I did the humans, and that was a metaphor because the humans need to be involved from start to finish, and we are very conscious that human oversight is needed in every step of the way. Actually, when it comes to badge testing, which is another aspect that I oversee, we have explicitly made it a policy that AI is not used for our testers. Our testers cannot use AI to support their testing or their badge review efforts. And the reason is that our learners are humans, and therefore our badges need to be tested by humans to make sure that it's really hitting the mark there. Yeah, so that's my little AI aside there, but that's not what this presentation's about, so we'll continue. All right, I want to show you the ghost of maintenance past. What did we do before? Not that long ago, really. Like January of this year, this is what we were doing. This is how we were tracking maintenance. So let's get in the Wayback Machine, shall we? First, a little context. I mentioned that we use the Trailhead Release App. So this is our custom app in Salesforce. Salesforce uses Salesforce. What a shocker. It's great, powerful product. So we have the Trailhead Release App, and this is like our central command for all things that go on in Trailhead. This is what we use to build, manage, and publish all Trailhead badges. So for every badge that you see on Trailhead, there's a corresponding badge record that goes with that, where we capture all sorts of data about that badge. And then we have a ton of related records that feed up to that as well. But the badge record is kind of like the anchor for everything. Let's zoom in and talk about maintenance a little bit more. So I have a live video of what the badge record looked like not that long ago. Of all of these fields that you see here, only a couple of them and then a handful of related records actually related to badge quality or maintenance. But they were buried in busy page layouts, or they were spread out in related records. You really had to understand the data and the data model to know where to find the data and to understand what the story it was telling, right? But even then, it was there was a lot of unanswered questions that left a lot of room for subjective interpretation. So we really didn't have a lot. So let's look at a couple examples. We captured a good chunk of our beta testing process in the release app before. So for example, you could see who completed the beta test, when they completed it. You could also see any feedback that was logged as a result of that beta test if you knew where to look for it. It was there though, but we were missing a lot of information, like where did that beta tester come from? Or were they a subject matter expert, or were they approaching the beta test more from that learner perspective who's learning about this product or feature for the first time? That makes a difference, right? We also didn't know like what test org they used, if we needed to go in there and look and figure out why they were running into a particular issue. So we were missing a lot of that sort of information that was outside of the release app. As another example, hold on, there was more about testing. Any testing after publication, so reviewing after publication, we did not capture in the release app at all. So for years, my team was building reports and exporting to a spreadsheet. I know, gasp. And then, we would manage all the testing there, and then we would port the data that we could back into the release app, but we would lose so much in the process. We would lose a lot of the story, a lot of the data, a lot of the information that you might want to look back on in the future. Okay, now I want to look at a couple more fields. So we have 2 fields that were on the badge record: content review frequency and the last content review date. So this badge was last reviewed on October 14th, 2024. But what does that mean? Did somebody go through the whole badge top to bottom? Did they make sure everything was correct and working as expected? Did they add any new information or update best practices? Or did they only look at a little portion, like just, a tiny little bit of it? Who did this? I don't know. I can't tell by looking at this. Why did they do it? Did they do it because they just wanted to check up on the health of this badge, or was it in anticipation of an upcoming release? Was it because they knew there were some big changes coming to this product? I also don't know. I can't tell. And then also, what was the result of that testing? Did they, log a couple bugs? Did they find some typos and get those fixed? Was it good as is? Like that happens sometimes. You review and you're like, yep, this is evergreen, more or less. Like check, done. Or was there a major overhaul because of this review? I don't know. I couldn't really tell. I could piece together some of this information, but again, I really had to understand the data in order to do it. But for the most part, you couldn't tell. It wasn't clear. And then this content review frequency. So this badge was expected to be reviewed as needed. What does that mean? How often is as needed? Is it every month, every year, every couple years? Is it, I don't know, if since Trailhead launched 10 years ago? I'm not sure. I don't know what that means. I think there's a lot of room for interpretation with a term like as needed, right? So lots of unanswered questions that we needed to answer. Okay, if this were a movie, this would be the part where we'd have like a Rocky style like montage, right? Like my team's working feverishly behind the scenes. We're meeting with stakeholders. We're lucid charting. We're sprinting. We're testing. We're iterating. We're banging our heads against the wall trying to figure out solutions for the tricky bits, right? Like all this is going on and there's like a montage. I was thinking about like if I could have AI make a video like that, but then I didn't do that. So I'm just going to describe it to you. And then we launched the Trailhead Content Reviews project. Woo! Ah. So with this new update to the Trailhead Release App, we had standardized processes for all of our badge reviews. So it didn't matter who was doing the review or when they were doing it. We had standardized processes. It had clear guidelines. It also had customized guidance based on that badge and the type of testing that you were doing. So you only had the information you needed when you needed it. Awesome. We also had more efficient tracking, so we could tell exactly when the badge had been last updated and how and why and by who, which is great. And then we also were able to zoom out a little bit more and look at our portfolio as a whole. So we had more actionable analytics. We could look at maintenance from a 10,000-foot view, and we could look at the health of Trailhead badges as a whole, all of which we could not do before. And now I have a little video demo, which we tested before this, so it's definitely gonna work. With sound and everything. A quick note before I click play. I did use AI for this. I did like an AI voiceover thing. Like I gave it a script and then I gave it like screenshots and then I told it what to say and it did awesome, except it enunciates things a little weird in some spots, but I think that's funny. So keep an ear out for that.
Let's revisit the badge from earlier in the presentation. Now all maintenance data is centralized on the new Maintenance tab. You'll notice the same last content review date as before, but now the data tells a clearer story. This badge should be reviewed ahead of every major release, or 3 times per year. Since it was last reviewed in October of 2024 and we've had 2 major releases since then, the review for this badge is past due and the maintenance status is red. The badge owner can initiate a badge review from the Maintenance tab. In this case, they want to plan a review ahead of the upcoming Winter 26 Salesforce release. The badge owner will use this Trailhead content review record to track progress on the badge review. The record includes an embedded testing checklist that has detailed instructions, customized to the badge and the type of testing. The checklist walks the reviewer through exactly what to look for and what to do if anything isn't working as expected. Once they've completed their test, the user can review all open feedback for the badge to see what has already been reported. Then, they can log new feedback directly from the content review record. When the review is complete, we can see exactly how many bugs and enhancements were logged for the badge as a result. But this badge isn't maintained quite yet. The badge owner must fix all bugs logged as a result of a content review to get the badge back in good standing. Once those bugs are fixed, the last content review date is automatically updated. And ta-da! The maintenance status is also updated to reflect the completed review. This badge is back in good standing.
And ta-da! It's not quite how I heard it in my head when I typed that, but it's fine. It's great. Awesome. So now we have the data that we were missing before, and we can answer some of those questions, right? Now I'm going to show you something that I hesitated to show you, but this is the state of our badge catalog right now. We have more red than I would like to see. Keep in mind, this process is pretty new, so it is I know that some of these red badges have been maintained, they have been updated in relatively frequently, or recently, but we didn't have a way to track that before, so we don't know. But now we do know where to direct our efforts, right? These red badges are the ones like that typo that's screaming out to me, but I can see exactly where they are right now, and that's where I can direct my efforts as a quality manager, right? So I do work with groups of testers. I have some internal volunteers. I also have external volunteers. We do testing projects. And so I have lots of people that are willing to test, and now I can direct them at the right place, right? How do we do that, might you ask? Well, this is another awesome feature that we released with the Content Reviews project, and it's called the Content Review Project Object. Selfishly, this is mainly for me. Like, I have a whole object just for me, you guys. Just kidding. I kid. But seriously, we needed a way to scale our maintenance efforts, right? Like, now we know what badges need attention, but how are we going to direct our efforts to those badges at scale? So I have this new object, and in this object, I can plan big testing projects. I can upload a list of badges to it. It will automatically generate those content review records that you just saw. And then when it's ready for testing, when I'm like, all right, I'm ready to release this to my group of internal testers, then it goes to Slack. We have a Slack community of internal volunteers who help us test all of our badges before publication and after. And so now I can send them a list, and I'm like, all right, we're doing major release testing, and we're going to look at flow badges this week, or we're going to look at Agentforce badges, or whatever the case might be. I can send it to them. They can see exactly what badges need testing. They can sign up for as many or as few as they would like. And then they use that content review record to conduct their testing. They have their testing checklist. They log feedback directly from there. And then boom, the badge maintenance is updated as a result. So we built in some scaling efforts in there as well, which are really, really awesome. And this is how we are tackling those red badges. This is how we are making that number go down. I will tell you that when we launched in February, that red number was more than green. And we have made that number go down quite a bit because we know where to direct our efforts. It's amazing. But this is how we do it. We lean on a lot of volunteers. Our badge owners are ultimately responsible for maintaining their badges, but we support those efforts as well. We also want different perspectives on these badges. So it's always good to have some internal perspective, external testers, the learner perspective, the subject matter expert perspective, and now we can track all of that, and we can see the different personas that are reviewing badges and when and why. All right, that's what I wanted to show you about our update to the Trailhead Release App. Sometimes I like to end my presentations like kind of awkwardly, like I don't do like, oh no, I have another page, so we'll talk about awkward endings in a second. I started the awkward early, which is awkward, which fits in. Awesome. With that project update, so now I can see exactly what the outcome of these testing efforts were, right? So that same project that I sent a list of badges to our testers, they go through, they complete testing by the due date that we give them, and then I can see the results. I can see that we logged 94 bugs, 7 of which were P0. These are our top priority bugs. There was a major breaking thing coming with the release, so it wasn't something that was currently breaking, but it would break when the release was live for Trailhead orgs. I can see how many enhancements were logged. These are suggestions for improvement, which are also important. And then I can see how many of those bugs are currently open. So for this project in particular, only one is open. The rest of them have been closed. They've been addressed. And now I can see the results of our testing efforts, which is huge. We could not see that before. And now I think I get awkward. Yes, we get awkward now. Cool. I don't do like a summary. I don't know. I feel like I made my point, right? So in conclusion, I asked ChatGPT to do one of my favorite pastimes, which is to come up with images. And man, it does some weird stuff, eh? I was like, hey, sum up why content quality is important for Trailhead, and this is what it came up with. So yeah, thank you for that. Thank you all for being here. Yes, good question. The question was, in the video that I showed of content reviews, there was an embedded checklist, and the question was whether that is in Salesforce natively or just in our Salesforce. Yes to both. It's Quip. It's an embedded Quip document, which is our Google document like equivalent type of situation. I don't think Quip is really heavily used outside of Salesforce, and in fact, maybe end of life. I don't know. Yeah, I think it's going away. But I love Quip. But anyways, we use Quip a lot. So we embed this checklist right in there. So we have a template that's behind the scenes. and they click on the button to generate the template, and it brings in some merge fields, like customizes what's in there to a certain extent, but for the most part, it's like we have a template for beta testing, we have a template for major release testing, et cetera, so that we can have that kind of hard-coded in there. But otherwise, it brings in some custom data, and then they can use it right within the app, or they can open it in a different tab. Yes, Janine. Good question. The question is, does Trailhead have their own Salesforce org, or do we have to share and then go through the red tape? We do not have our own org, but we do not work in org 62. Org 62 is the first Salesforce org. Well, it's not the first; it was the 62nd. But it's our main Salesforce org, right? A lot of our salespeople work out of that, and it's known, right? This isn't a secret. We do not work in org 62. We work in an org called GUS, and that stands for something: Grand Unified System. That sounds accurate. Cool. Didn't make that up. So GUS, it is a shared org. I actually don't know all the other teams that work in it. I do know that a lot of our engineering teams will track their work in there when there's product bugs, et cetera. I don't know to the extent that they use it outside of that. For us, we have our own little corner, the Trailhead Release App. We have our own engineers for the Trailhead Release App, so I work with them, and I'm like, hey, we need this, this, and this, and we work together, and it's a lot of back and forth, and your basic Scrum team type of scenario. And then we're able to release regularly. And I know that we have to go through processes to release into this larger org. And most of what we do is really contained, but there's some things like permissions that are more widespread and that sort of stuff. So there's a little bit of both. But for the most part, we can be pretty contained and self-sufficient. Yeah. Yes. Kenny? That's a really good question. I might be passing the microphone to Kate because she laughed about that. The question, I'm supposed to repeat the question. The question is how to motivate people on your team or in your company to complete badges on Trailhead, and the Trail Tracker app is something that I know, I actually am not very familiar with Trail Tracker, but I know it's something you can use to kind of assign badges and track what badges people have completed in your company. And what are we doing with that, or any of that? Kate, do you know? What are we doing with that?
Well, I laughed because it's tough integration, and it broke regularly when I use it as a customer. So
cool. Kate says it's a really tough integration, and it broke a lot when she used it. Yeah, I don't know a lot about the Trail Tracker app, but in general, in terms of motivation, I used to work at the University of Colorado, and we used to do we'd have these really informal gatherings. We'd do Trailhead Fridays, and we just all come sit together, and sometimes we'd show something that we learned and how it might apply to what we do at the business school, and how we might want to come to the Salesforce team and be like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we had X, Y, and Z, or we built a flow, or I don't know. But we would kind of talk about what we had learned and how it applies to what we do. I think the application is a big motivator, right? Because on Trailhead, this is a really scrubbed environment, right? It's really clean. The org we give you is very clean, and you're the only person in there, so you're the only person that can mess it up, but that's not real world, right? So when you have that application to the real world, and especially the world that you and your coworkers work in, I think that can be motivating. So you learn in theory what should happen or what best practice is, and then you talk about how it might be applied. That's an idea. I think there's all sorts of ways that you can motivate, but gamification, that's what we do. But that's fun. Prizes, plushies, stickers. Good question. Okay, the question is, have there ever been tests that haven't been able to be completed, or fixes that weren't able to be made that maybe impacted our release timeline? Good question. A little context, we have also grown our tooling behind the scenes that helps us publish to Trailhead. So it used to be that we would only publish to Trailhead when we had content ready in the very beginning, and then it became, more frequent, became monthly, it became every other week, it became weekly. We now release to Trailhead 3 times a day. So if I find a typo right now, I can probably get it fixed by the midday release. So we've updated our tooling to be able to react more quickly, which is good because now we have products like Agentforce and Data Cloud that are changing daily sometimes, and we sometimes have to react to that, and we sometimes have to be like, oh, that button moved, or oh, that's not where that is anymore, and now we need to update our content to reflect where it is. It's not my job specifically to get those things fixed. I oversee it. However, I will step in and get things fixed if I need to. If I see something that's broken, especially if it's a big blocker, it's in our Agent Blazor content, and it's going to be blocking people from completing these ranks that we just released. But sometimes I don't know. I don't know what the fix is. A lot of times I don't know what the fix is. I'm not the product expert, right? And so I have to lean on people. That's where the badge owners come in. It is their responsibility. We have SLAs for all of our bugs, and so we expect, we have different priorities, and for each of those, we expect them to be fixed within a certain amount of time. And if they're not, then we will either I'll step in and I'll fix it if I know what the fix is, or I'll take the badge down. I'll retire it. And we might bring it back later, but quality. Quality is important, right? And I don't want this sitting out there if it's blocking people, if it's wrong. So yeah, we'll take it down and then we'll bring it back.
With all that content, how do you know when something needs to be changed? So yesterday, Agentforce changed something. How does the Trailhead team know that?
Me and Jean are laughing because it is so hard. The question for the recording, the question is, how do we know when these big changes are coming that we're going to need to update Trailhead to reflect? It was easier before, so with releases, we do major release testing, right? And we don't yet have the scale to test all of our badges ahead of every major release, but we prioritize those hands-on challenge ones because that's the ones where you're really going to notice a difference if you get in there and we're telling you to do X, Y, and Z, and that's no longer how you do those things, right? So we prioritize those. And doing that testing, a lot of times that stuff will surface. Sometimes it's something really little. The label of the button has changed. That's not something you're going to find in a release note because our customers are smart enough to understand, like, the label has changed, but I know what it does, right? But like our hands-on challenge, the assessment behind the scenes does not know that, or our instructions are very explicit. You click this button, it's over here, then you do this, then you search for that, and if those aren't right, then you get lost, right, as the learner. So some of those things surface there. We try to have close relationships with the product team so that we know when these big changes are coming and we can plan for them. We also have to keep in mind when these changes will impact the orgs that you actually get to be in Trailhead. So we have developer edition orgs. Those are on a different release cycle than like customer orgs, right? So like SLDS 2, if you've heard of that, it's the new like enhanced Lightning UI, and it's starting to be rolled out for brand new orgs. There's a lot of complex considerations about when and why that should be enabled for customer orgs. For developer edition orgs, these are like clean slates, right? So it's pretty easy to just enable it, right? So we're tracking like when is that going to be enabled for developer edition orgs, because at the very least it's going to impact some screenshots, but it might impact some steps too. So we try to keep ahead of that. And in lieu of what we can keep ahead of, then we react. So to Jean's point, we hear from you when things break, and so sometimes that's how they're surfaced. It's something's broken, something's wrong. Sometimes we have to dig really deep to figure out what the actual underlying issue is, but we hear it from the community before we know that it happened. Yes, okay, so the question is, with all the data that we have from people completing badges on Trailhead and then all the data that we have in our release app, how do we use that to assess quality and act on that data? How we consume it? Okay, the tooling. Okay, I'm going to speak at a high level because I don't necessarily understand all the tooling. We have a lot of tools behind the scenes. I know that we have like Snowflake involved on the back end at some point. I know we were using Redshift or are using Redshift. I'm not sure. Heard those words before, so I know they're there somewhere. But yes, we have a lot of data behind the scenes. I know we're starting to use Data Cloud, obviously, Salesforce on Salesforce. We are having a lot of conversations about what should be surfaced in the release app versus what we should have in Tableau. In fact, one of my team members, one of my favorite engineers, they just pulled her to focus on analytics entirely, to have that be her full-time job. She builds a lot of awesome Tableau dashboards, and she's built a lot of our analytics that is surfaced right in the release app. But we have so much data now, and yeah, so we're really like prioritizing how we get that in front of the right people at the right time, and then we can make decisions on it. From my perspective, from the quality side of things, like this is like one aspect of that, like getting the right data in here so that we know what to target. But then we have like performance data, like how are these badges performing, how many people are completing them, if people are starting them and then not finishing them, where are they dropping off, and then for those people, like what is their background, like what is their role? Like maybe they weren't the right target audience and it made sense that they kind of left halfway through, but if they are the target audience, why did they leave? Because that's a little bit more concerning. So we look at that sort of stuff too. Thank you all.